Okay, everybody, we should be live with Ann Forti. Ann is a vaccine safety advocate and medical liberty advocate and prolific researcher. And you've been researching vaccine safety, uh, just the stories of people who have had injuries over 30 years. So a conversation, a topic for discussion, a scientific focus that has been around a lot longer than just the last couple of years with COVID, but has obviously jettisoned into the public's attention. We'll talk about a lot during this, but the first issue I want to bring up is the media's coverage of the new CDC director saying the COVID shot will likely become an annual recommended shot like the flu vaccine. Before I start playing this, any opening thoughts on what we're about to watch?
Well, no, just thank you for having me on. Just any time that we can get the word out on vaccine injury or getting more information into the public hands so that they can make good informed consent on choices that they should be allowed to make regarding their medical freedom is a good thing. So as much as this word can get out there is a good thing. So thanks for allowing that word to get out.
Okay, let's start this. This is Spectrum News in New York.
As Dr. Mandy Cohen walks into a room of CDC staffers, it has the feel of a first day of school. Hi. Employees assessing the new boss, the boss hoping to get to know her team, an agency that consists of 20,000.
I'm just going to stop this real fast because I think this is really important. I'm speculating here, but I think I'm making a very good guess that the reason you're able to see the video that you're watching in this is because the CDC invited a reporter in to cover this woman's first day at work. And that's why you saw the one shot of the meeting, or you're seeing a second shot here where she's just shaking hands. This is how the government or corporations, whoever wants to get their message across and wants to use the media to do it, they say, hey, this is happening. Why don't you come in? We'll get you one-on-one with this person. We'll get you all the video that you need for your story. It's a one-stop shop. It's easy. You'll get your lunch break. It's all self-contained, and you'll get special access. And then the reporter feels special. They get to shadow the director the first day. The other option is that another reporter did this, and then this was sent out to all the affiliates, and so everybody gets to replay this, or somebody with the CDC who works in their social media department took this video and it was sent out to the local TV stations or the national stations to say, hey, here's some B-roll you can use of the new CDC director on her first day, and then the reporters in-house, and they just package the story without even ever having been there. But it's obvious to me just watching this that this was something the CDC really wanted to get attention about, this new director. They gave the reporters, whether it was canned footage that they shot themselves, or a reporter's like, oh, I get to go in on the first day and get special access. That's what's going on here. It's them just trying to raise attention about this very big day.
1,000 staffers around the world. This is the first gathering of what Cohen's calling Meetups with Mandy, a laid-back gathering she hopes to replicate. The internal medicine physician, mother of two, who regularly wears a Hebrew high necklace, meaning life, had early inspiration to get into the medical field. Her mom was a nurse practitioner.
I saw how her work really impacted not just the person she was serving, but their families and then communities.
Okay, so now we have our answer. He's actually there. Also, do you see the microphone? She's holding it in her hand. It almost makes me wonder if he doesn't even have a photographer, if he's just shooting this all by himself.
Joined Cohen in Atlanta at the CDC's headquarters shortly after President Joe Biden chose her as director, replacing Dr. Rochelle Walensky, who recently stepped down.
What was it about the CDC that made you say, I want to get back into the public sector?
So when an opportunity to lead an agency whose mission is to protect the health of this nation and frankly, the world.
What do you think about that? Its mission is to protect the health of the nation and the world.
Well, first of all, I don't know that our CDC is to do that, but it's so hard for me to look at this after all the experience that I've had in this space for over 30 years. I mean, it's hard for me not to see what what I see. And so when she's like protecting the world, I was just like, wow, how about you just go talk to your directors to see, you know, the director of the CDC and the NIH and the FDA, well, before she was director, and see what they know and see the damage that they've done. So I don't know. Again, it's just hard for me to look at this with knowing all that I know.
Okay. And she's going to tell you more about what she knows, but probably
Yeah.
not entirely on YouTube.
Yeah.
So let's keep going.
It was easy to get to yes. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Mandy Cohen.
Cohen became a household name in North Carolina, leading the state's Department of Health and Human Services during the height of the COVID pandemic. At every turn, Cohen, armed with her graphs and preaching what were known as the 3 W's, spoke to North Carolinians through constant press conferences. She gained respect from both sides of the aisle in this politically purple state.
While we saw trust go down in lots of institutions, we actually saw trust increase in North Carolina. So we measured trust in the Department of Health and Human Services, and we saw that increase.
But being trustful is not something the agency she now heads has recently become known for. A study published in March by Health Affairs found 26% of Americans in a survey last year did not have a lot of trust in the CDC.
Do you think, though, there were things that could have been done differently?
That seems low to me, 26%. What do you think?
Oh, I'm sure it's much higher now. Wait, they said, was that 2022 that they did the survey or 2023?
Let's go back and double check on that so we make sure we're right about it. Hang on. Here we go. Let me bring it back just a little bit more.
In a survey last year,
Last
did
year.
not have a lot of trust
that seems very low, especially with all the information that has come out over the last year.
Yep, I agree.
CDC.
Do you think, though, there were things that could have been done differently at the CDC?
Folks have been very clear that the CDC did lose trust. There were some early places where the CDC did not perform and execute in the way that they needed to.
The agency was criticized during the Trump administration for becoming political and moving too slow on COVID, while under the Biden administration, it was condemned for not communicating clear guidance on COVID. Cohen says she plans to focus on transparency, execution.
This is, I think, where I really don't see eye to eye with many of the reporters that cover the CDC or any of the government propaganda, I guess, related to COVID, is that they miss. It's usually like the CDC didn't communicate well enough or something, but they rarely say the CDC lied about this or the CDC pushed this agenda that wasn't true. You know, and that's why it's politicized. It's not Trump. You know, they throw Trump in there. Not to say that, you know, that may not have had something to do with it. The media hated Trump, whatever. He was connected, but really, a lot of the distrust in the CDC is because of real reasons. The CDC deserves to not have trust, but they approach it like, oh, you guys just lost some trust because, you know, maybe you were like too slow to move on COVID. No, most of the people feel like you were way too fast to force people to get injections that they didn't want, your recommendations, even though you knew that it wasn't preventing transmission. All these people lost their jobs over, I mean, just on and on and on and on. And I feel like reporters give the CDC a pass. Like, it's not that what they were doing was bad. It's just they didn't communicate it well enough. But I don't think that's where the trust front comes from. I think that the trust comes from the fact that what they were communicating was a lie, you know, and didn't match reality. That's my take on it.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's keep going.
And building relationships with the public, health leaders, and politicians, Democrat and Republican. In Congress, House Republicans are looking to make significant cuts to the CDC in the budget.
Just like we have a military to protect us here and around the world, we need a CDC that can protect us. We cannot see those cuts and have the national security asset we need here at the CDC.
A threat to national safety could play out this winter. Cohen says she's closely watching the risk of a triple-demic, a mix of the flu, RSV, which the CDC recently approved a vaccine to be administered to people of some ages, and COVID, which Cohen tells us the CDC will likely issue guidance on in September for for how often to get vaccinated.
We anticipate that what COVID will become is similar to what we're seeing with flu shots, where it's going to be you get your annual flu shot and you get your annual COVID shot.
Convincing all Americans.
Okay, so that's like the big piece that came out of it, that she's just like, we just think it's gonna be like the flu shot. Every year you're gonna get it. It's just gonna be recommended. And then they kind of gloss over the fact there's this brand new RSV vaccine. We'll talk about that later too. What do you think about her
It's
saying
fear.
that and then moving on?
I'm sorry. Well,
No, go
first
ahead,
of all, they're peddling fear right away. Oh, we're going to have this
Triple-demic.
Yeah. And so right away there's fear. And if you've seen, I don't know, there's been a couple of clips where you see her talking in the past to, like, I forget who she's talking to. And they're like, well, what are you doing about this? And they're like, oh, well, we're doing this. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to do that too. It's like everything's on the fly. Like, let's see which way the wind's blowing. And that's what we will do. I mean,
but they need their budget, she says, for national security. So
yeah.
Okay. Almost done.
To get a shot is the challenge.
I'm very worried about folks not vaccinating their kids. There's plenty of other things that are hard as parents that we can't do. This is one that we can. Nice to meet you.
In many ways, the job of a government agency head is part policy and part communicator. Cohen is doubling down on the latter, trying to create a camaraderie within a worldwide agency, while aiming to restore trust in medicine and in a place where the goal is about saving lives. In Washington, Reuben Jones, Spectrum News.
So, yeah, I mean, there's just so much in that just, to me, is an advertisement for the CDC, like ending it by saying that their goal is to save lives. I mean, I'm not doubting that a lot of the people who work there, probably the vast majority of the people who work there, truly believe that that's what they're doing. But I think there's plenty of critics with reasonable amounts of data to suggest that that's not what the CDC is doing. So I just, they're just very uncritical, as if, and this isn't even the worst report I've seen out there. This at least, there was a little bit of like, there's not trust. At least they know, that there's that there isn't trust, but it doesn't go anywhere past the surface, and it doesn't give the viewer any reason to believe that there is good reason for the distrust in the CDC. So, Anne, before we cut it on YouTube, give us your final thoughts on that.
If everyone would watch the interview that I've edited, that was, that's, you can find on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. If the whole world could see what the vaccine injured, what has happened to those who dealt specifically with Janet Woodcock at the FDA, Rochelle Walensky, Peter Marks, the emails are there, the Zoom calls were there. There's over 800. Well, this isn't mentioned in the video, but yeah, this is the one. If you watch this video, and so I'm friends with Bree Dressen, who was in the vaccine trials. She and Joel Walskog have started React 19, the largest advocacy organization. It's the vaccine injured, helping the vaccine injured. So she's really at the center of this whole story. There'll be a documentary coming out with her later in a couple months, but this is factual information, and you cannot believe, I could not believe that the high levels of officials did this. You listen to this and you go, how did this happen? And I have sent to Mandy, and I've commented, I'm like, Mandy, you are never going to be able to bring trust until you deal with what's in this video. So Anyway, Mandy seems like a really nice person. She's got a nice personality. I don't doubt her motives, but literally she has to be unaware of this. I don't.
Unaware or aware?
I think, I don't know how you could be aware of what's in this video, what happened with the interactions between Peter Marks and, like I said, Janet Woodcock and all these people, and what they did to the citizens of the United States, what they did to these people. I don't know when you want to cut out or how much you want me to keep talking.
Let's keep talking in a second. Okay. Don't forget, everybody. You're listening to Anne. I know you're listening to Anne. You're like, man, I'm going to need a drink to get through the rest of this video. And the good news is I have one for you. My favorite wines, they're Malbecs from Argentina, very remote regions. My extremist altitude Malbecs, one from almost 9,000 feet, the rest from about 6,000 feet. I ski at about 4,500 feet. So just imagine how hard these grapes are working for your palate. 50% off the wine itself, 50% off shipping. This company has been with me since the beginning. I couldn't thank them more. They stick through me all these interviews, help me bring people like Ann on, and they never tell me who I can talk to, who I can't talk to, what I can ask them, what I can say. It's important to support companies like this in today's world. So if you're already a wine drinker, this is a great way to support my work, support a company that's about free speech, about the stuff that we should be able to talk about and discuss. And, also just lets them know that there are viewers like you who believe in all that. So give them some love if you're a wine drinker. And it's a great way to give a gift. You got birthdays, holidays, whatever's coming up. This is wine with a cause. So stop whining about whatever's going on in the world and get some wine at AllisonWinePromo.com and keep these interviews coming. Okay, we'll see you guys over on the other platforms. Thanks if you're watching on YouTube. Oh, and don't forget, if you're considering being a part of my editorial board, go to AllisonMorrow.locals.com. We do have a live chat going on there right now. It's a great way to support my work, $5 a month, and you get to put in questions ahead of time for interviews for people like Ann. So we're going to get questions for Ann too, straight from the viewers. So